But all this has paved the way for a high-profile documentary, which was released this month by the Al Jazeera network, which alleged shocking levels of corruption among senior officials of your state. And your government's immediate reaction was to brand the film false, defamatory, and a smear. You didn't even bother to investigate first. That's not the response of an honest government, is it?
Inquiry is taking place. It is being inquired, but let me really, with all sincerity, ask you, the title of that documentary was All the Prime Minister's Men. And we were told that it would expose corruption around the Prime Minister. Do you really believe that documentary succeeded in doing that? Was there a single evidence which incriminated the Prime Minister in the alleged corruption? I mean, this is where I think, as sensible academics and journalists, we should stand back and ask ourselves, what was the evidence given to incriminate the Prime Minister's involvement? And yet, this whole documentary was built as to show how corrupt the regime is.
Dr. Rizvi,
Yes,
Dr. Rizvi,
yes,
looking at the film, which was produced by Al Jazeera, here was a television team that was able to locate two high-level fugitives from justice, convicted of murder, whose elder brother just happens to be your serving chief of the army, General Aziz Ahmed. Apparently, your own law enforcement couldn't find his brothers who were on the run, but they did. That's pretty embarrassing for you, isn't it?
Certainly it is. But on the other hand, again, I'm not going to be defending everything, but the way you are putting the question to me, I feel almost it is necessary. Should a person be judged guilty because of the guilt of his brothers? I think this is a question we need to ask. Now, if the brother has helped his, if the brother in the armed force has helped his brothers to evade justice, to avoid or further his criminal activities, this accusation would be extremely valid. What happened was long before this gentleman became the army chief.
All right. Well, let's just look at some of the details which came out in the film about the General Ahmed's brothers. Two of them, Anis and Harris, were found guilty of involvement in the 1996 murder of a member of a rival party, and both absconded from justice and went on the run. Now, a third brother, Joseph, was also convicted and spent more than 10 years on death row. Magically, just before his brother Aziz was promoted to head of the army, Joseph gets a presidential pardon. How did that happen? Is Bangladesh in the habit of giving pardons to convicted murderers who gun down their opponents on the street in cold blood? Is that what you do? You give them a presidential pardon?
Mr. Sebastian, the certainty with which you are speaking in many ways is surprising me, and you have linked the appointment of the army chief and his brother's release into one story. Let me remind you.
It is one story, Dr. Rizvi.
No, Mr. Sebastian. Let me.
My point is, you have to be pretty well connected to get a pardon for cold-blooded murder.
Let me give you the facts, then you draw your conclusion. Please, let me give you the facts. The brother in question had served about 20 years in prison. There is a law in the country that after serving a certain amount of years, you may be given parole or clemency by the president. Now, all this happened long before, months and months before. Even the vacancy to which the brother was appointed as the chief arose. It happened completely separately. This man has served 35 years plus in the armed forces, worked his way up with a fairly clean record. So why should we malign and link these two stories together? I would like you to look at the time. I would like you to look at the timeline of the two events. These are 6 months apart.
All right. Oh, okay. Dr. Rizvi, the point is also, which the film brought out, is that your army chief knew perfectly well where his two other brothers were, the ones that were on the run, and apparently didn't tell the relevant authorities. Isn't that worth investigating?
It would be worth investigating, but please also, you know as much as I do, both these gentlemen were outside the jurisdiction of Bangladesh. And yes, if this information had been available, we would have tried to have extradited them, and provided we had an extradition treaty with these two countries. In fact, in many cases, we have done. And there is no reason to believe that we would not have done. And you are quite right that if this information had been available to the government would have taken action.